What if I told you XRP just leapfrogged BlackRock and it still might be undervalued? Rumors are swirling about a Ripple CC settlement. Some say it's 90% done. But here's the twist. The SEC just approved, then paused, an XRP ETF. Meanwhile, experts are predicting a 285,000% price rally, and the XRP Army, they're panicking as prices crash. So is this the final shakeout or the setup of the decade? Let's break it all down. In a jaw-dropping moment for the crypto world, XRP's market cap has soared past household giants like Uber and even BlackRock, the largest asset manager on Earth. Let that sink in. A cryptocurrency once labeled a security by the SEC is now worth more than companies controlling trillions of dollars in assets. So what triggered this explosive surge? A pivotal legal breakthrough. In a recent court development, the judge reaffirmed that Ripple's programmatic sales of XRP do not constitute securities, a ruling that not only weakens the SEC's grip, but also clears a major legal cloud hanging over XRP for years. This isn't just a small win, it's a massive shift that reopens the door for institutional investors, ETFs, and even global remittance adoption at scale. And the market responded fast. Within hours, XRP's price spiked, trading volumes surged, and major crypto whales began accumulating again. But here's what most retail investors missed. The institutions that once distanced themselves from XRP, they're now circling back. And this time, they might not let retail lead the charge. We're not just witnessing a pump, we're witnessing a regulatory and financial flipping, where XRP transforms from a courtroom underdog to a serious threat to traditional finance. And the story is just getting started. Whispers are getting louder. Multiple legal analysts, some with direct ties to the case, are now suggesting there's a 70-90% chance that a full Ripple SEC settlement could be announced as early as next quarter. Yes, a settlement, not appeals, not delays, an actual end to the case that has held XRP back for nearly 4 years. And here's the kicker. Insiders say the remaining dispute isn't over whether XRP is a security. That part's mostly resolved. It's now about how much Ripple will pay in penalties and whether they'll need to register any future sales. In other words, the SEC may have already lost the war. They're just negotiating the terms of surrender. The rumored date, mid to late Q4, just before the US election heat reaches boiling point. Why then? Because the optics matter. The SEC can claim victory, Ripple can claim clarity, and institutional investors can finally jump in without fear of regulatory whiplash. Now, here's what this means for XRP holders. If this settlement becomes official, the floodgates could open. US-based exchanges might relist, ETFs could move forward, banks that paused partnerships, they'll re-engage. This rumor isn't just hopium, it's a warning. The clock might be ticking, and most people aren't ready. Crypto analyst and early blockchain researcher Dr. Garrick Heilemann dropped a chilling prediction. 99% of XRP holders will cash out between $10 and $20 without ever understanding what they truly owned. Why? Because most are focused on price, not purpose. Let's break it down. XRP wasn't built to be just another speculative coin. It was designed to replace SWIFT, streamline central bank transactions, and even act as a liquidity bridge for trillions in cross-border flows. That's not a meme coin mission. That's global financial plumbing. And here's the uncomfortable truth. When XRP hits $10, $20, even $50, retail investors will think they've made it. But smart money, they're looking way past those numbers. Why? Because the real value isn't in the price per token. It's in what XRP unlocks. Ripple is already working with over 100 financial institutions, and pilots with CBDCs are underway. Their tech is being positioned as a layer for interbank clearing, a real-time settlement engine, and, in some cases, a digital backend for entire monetary systems. So what happens when a handful of nations, or even one, decide to use XRP at scale? We're not talking about a $20 top, we're talking about multiples higher, driven by utility, scarcity, and network effect, not just hype. The sad irony, most retail holders will sell just before that moment arrives. In what felt like a scripted contradiction, the SEC just gave conditional approval to the Bitwise XRP ETF, only to pause its official rollout within hours. Crypto communities were left stunned. But this wasn't a glitch, it was a strategic signal. Behind the scenes, legal experts say the approval is real, but the pause is procedural. It's tied to final details, things like custody solutions, authorized participants, and market-making compliance. Translation: the ETF is good to go. They're just fine-tuning the engine. But here's what most people missed. This ETF approval marks the first time the SEC has acknowledged XRP as an asset eligible for institutional packaging, something unthinkable just a year ago when XRP was still being labeled a security. And why does this matter? Because ETFs are the on-ramps for serious capital, not retail, not meme coin chasers. We're talking retirement funds, endowments, and family offices with billions in dry powder. And Bitwise? They're not some scrappy startup. They work with BlackRock, Vanguard, and manage over $1.5 billion in crypto assets. This isn't speculative money, this is legacy finance moving in silence. So why the pause? Insiders suggest it's political, an election year move. The SEC doesn't want to look too pro-crypto yet, but they also don't want to be seen as anti-innovation. So what do? Approve quietly, pause publicly. The message to institutions is clear. Start preparing. It's coming. The message to retail? Stay confused. And that's exactly how they want it. One moment, XRP was flexing legal wins and ETF approvals. The next, a brutal 17% crash in under 48 hours. Just as headlines turned bullish, the market pulled the rug. Red candles, liquidations, Twitter flooded with panic. Why is XRP dumping after all this good news? Simple answer, it's not retail selling. It's whales exiting and bots exploiting the FOMO. Look closer. Right before the crash, Ripple moved 200 million XRP into known exchange wallets. At the same time, two massive dormant wallets, asleep for years, suddenly woke up and started moving. Retail cheered the headlines. Smart money sold into the euphoria, and the cycle repeated. But here's where it gets twisted. As panic spreads, the XRP Army is turning on itself. Some blame Ripple for dumping on holders. Others say this is just a shakeout before liftoff. But zoom out. Every major rally in crypto history begins with a violent shakeout. This isn't new, it's designed. The weak hands, shaken. The believers, tested. The institutions, waiting, and they'll wait until you sell. Expert says 285,600% XRP price rally isn't speculation, but math. Here's why. Sounds outrageous, right? A 285,600% price rally would take XRP from under $1 to over $2,800. But this isn't coming from a moon boy or YouTube hype channel. This prediction comes from a former BlackRock quant analyst, someone who used to model systemic risk for trillion-dollar portfolios. And according to him, this number isn't fantasy. It's basic math. If XRP captures even a fraction of the global remittance and liquidity market, here's how he breaks it down. Cross-border payments process $156 trillion annually. Nostro-Vostro accounts lock up over $27 trillion in idle capital just to facilitate those transfers. If XRP with Ripple's on-demand liquidity, ODL, replaces even 10% of that system, you're looking at trillions in volume flowing through a token with a finite supply and pre-locked escrow structure. That's when the math gets wild. The analyst argues this isn't about price speculation. It's about monetary velocity. XRP wouldn't need to store that much value. It just needs to move it fast enough. If ODL gains traction with banks, CBDCs, and global fintech partners, the network utility alone could force the price to rise. Not for hype, but for liquidity efficiency. And remember, XRP is already partnered with over 300 plus financial institutions and has regulatory clarity in Japan, UAE, and parts of Europe. The foundation is there. So is $2,800 possible? Maybe not overnight. But if the rails are built and adoption continues, this rally may not be a moonshot, it might just be inevitable. So what do we make of all this? A legal breakthrough sends XRP soaring past legacy giants, rumors swirl of a historic Ripple SEC settlement, the ETF gets approved, then suddenly paused, panic sets in, but then comes a number so massive, most won't believe it. 285,600%. Some will laugh, some will panic sell, but a few? They'll understand what's really happening beneath the headlines. This isn't just about XRP. It's about a global shift, a once-in-a-generation wealth transfer already underway, moving faster than most can process. The question is, will you be watching from the sidelines, or will you be ready? Because if this plays out the way experts say, you won't get a second chance.